slide. This is really goes back to the origins of Greenpeace. Greenpeace, on that first mission, was embraced by some native peoples who gave us their emblem, and basically that's known as a circle of life, and that's one of the goals that we want, you know, for the world. And so it goes directly into our philosophy of being stewards of the planet, of taking in the native peoples, the First Nation peoples' philosophy regarding planning for 7 generations, regarding being a part spiritually, culturally, economically, being a part of the environment. And so we've embraced that from the very beginning. But regarding our origins, that was in Canada, and that Don't Make a Wave committee decided to take stiffer actions. A group of them broke off and started a group called Greenpeace. And what they did was basically raise money any which way that they can, mostly through concerts. James Taylor and Joni Mitchell were instrumental in raising about $14,000 in order to buy a boat, and not to buy a boat, to actually to hire out a boat that would sail into the test site, the nuclear bomb test site. And in doing so, they planned on basically standing up to the bomb.
Do you have some more slides you're going to show us here on
well, the slides basically regard the next action. Right after Amchitka, there was an ad placed in a European newspaper seeking somebody who had a boat that would be interested in flying into the islands of Mururoa, where the French were doing their nuclear testing, atmospheric testing at the time. A man by the name of David McTaggart answered a classified ad, a classified listing, really. It wasn't even an ad, just a listing in a newspaper. And he answered the ad, took his boat to Vega, and sailed into the bomb test site of the French and stayed there for 3 months throughout the summer. And so the slide that I have there is showing what happened on that voyage. It was one of the key foundations of Greenpeace, because it showed the dedication that people have to it. This is what happened. The French basically, the first summer he sat there the whole summer. They ran the ship. He had to go back. The next summer he went there. They sent commandos out in Zodiacs who boarded the boat and basically beat him up. They threw him off the boat into one of their dinghies, and then they fed a story to the press that he fell out of the boat and hit his head. And then what happened, of course, was that as they thought they got rid of all the media equipment, the cameras, etc., it was disclosed about 2 weeks after they put their stories in the press that we did have indeed photographs of what actually happened. A woman named Anne Marie Horn took a roll of film and basically concealed it in her vagina, and so it bypassed all the test. And when we disclosed the photos to the world, it showed that the French boarded our ship in international waters, beat up our people, hospitalized Mr. McTaggart, who ended up being the director of Greenpeace International, and really bringing Greenpeace under one umbrella. It was a very important person within Greenpeace. This is, you're looking at 1971, in which where we started, as far as with Amchitka, and then with the Mururoa, a number of different actions started around 1973.
Wow.
And so it goes back a ways.
Wow.
But it was very instrumental, because it shows really important things. Number one, citizens can stand up to the bomb. Citizens can stand up to governments and basically succeed. The test no longer occurred on Amchitka. Amchitka Island off the coast of Alaska was turned into a bird sanctuary.
These are obvious achievements that you've reached here. This is amazing. What are some of the other achievements Greenpeace's?
1975 was the next major move. We had a journalist, basically Robert Hunter, who was on the first voyage to Amchitka, who ended up taking over Greenpeace in 1975. We had a director die. We had other people resign, and there was a void there. Robert Hunter, a journalist with the Vancouver Sun, stepped in, filled that void, and decided to broaden the Greenpeace perspective to take under its wings the whales. And so he started a Save the Whales campaign, and when Greenpeace got involved, we decided that we would also come up with some creative ways in order to force people to confront the issue. We seek confrontation. And what he came up with, what they came up with, the guy named Paul Sponge, was actually another person who was creatively involved with the tactic of putting a inflatable, a dinghy, between the whaler and the whale, and so that it made it very difficult for the whalers to get a clear shot at the whale. This tactic was very successful, led to a drop in the whale slaughter of 25,000 annually down to 1,000, and led in 1981 to a ban on commercial whaling, which went into effect in 1985.
Do you have another slide you're going to show us?
I believe so. We have plenty of slides, and that's the whales. Basically, we went to it very quick, It's off the screen now, but there was a slide of the whales there. And whaling's been going on for 1,000 years, okay? Greenpeace has only been around for 20 years, but it shows again that when people basically stand up to, in this case, big industry, that they can be successful. Because after 1,000 years of whaling, when it did happen that people actually put themselves between the whaler and the whale, and the harpoon was fired, narrowly missing the Greenpeace's head, striking and killing the whale, it disclosed to the world, obviously, the blatant brutality of the whalers regarding their disregard for life, and it really, of course, you know, showed the world just how brutal this practice is. And obviously, whales are an intelligent mammal, and it should be respected. And of course, after 1,000 years of whaling, those actions forced a rethinking of that traditional practice and led to a change.
There's the violation. Was it called dragnet fishing? Is that
Driftnet.
Driftnet. I'm sorry.
Sure,
Driftnet fishing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Driftnets came in later on, created mostly around 1979, and so it came in a little bit later on. Driftnets is in essence dealing with a plastic webbing that goes some 200-300 feet below the surface, and basically strips mines to seas. It kills everything virtually everything that gets in its way, including birds that dive down and try and get the fish that are caught in these nets. They end up getting entangled in this web of nets and dying. So you're looking at killing about 2 million sharks while you're getting tuna, about 100,000 dolphins annually, hundreds of thousands of birds, etc.
How many countries practice this today?
Drift netting is on a decline right now, fortunately. Just in fact, not recently, last month, as a taping of the show, there was the DriftNet bill, DriftNet Enforcement Act was signed by George Bush. This has been a long campaign for us, 10 years. We've risked life and limb again. We have sent divers and expeditions into the nets to set some of these mammals free. You know, some of the rarest mammals, dolphins, whales, have been caught in these nets, and we have, you know, set them free. And basically, drift nets are still used. You're looking at, in the Pacific Rim, for example, about 700 ships a night still go out. They scoop up a piece of the ocean the size of Ohio, and it is leading us to basically to the decline of our oceans as being basically a natural resource for future generations. You might recall in the early 70s, the oceans were going to be the saving ground for the world's growing population regarding starvation. They're saying they're so plentiful in food that it's going to solve that problem. And of course, with drift netting coming on the scene in 1979, it changed all that.
Spread it out as globally, as you are in the oceans and doing things with pollution and local issues. How many members are there in Greenpeace? What's the number look like?
Well, you're looking at about over 4 million members worldwide, or what we call supporters, really, because we don't have, our supporters don't vote, so we don't call them members technically, but we do, you know, non-technically, unofficially call them members. But so we have about 4 million. We were up to about 5 million. The recession has hit us. We do not solicit money from the government or industry, so we're completely people-powered. And obviously, we don't attract a lot of rich industrialists. So when the recession hits and our people can't give, you know, our numbers have declined. But that is also attributed to how we actually count a supporter. You have to give $30 or more, for example. And so people who give us 10 or 15 are not technically counted as a supporter of Greenpeace. And so if you look at those people, you're looking at 5 to 6 million, perhaps.
We're going to talk about that a little bit more, if indeed corporate America is involved with Greenpeace itself. But first, we're going to go away. And when we come back, we're going to talk some more about those things with Claude Rollins here from Greenpeace in Chicago. But first, we're going to see some public service announcements about some people that are out there doing nice things for other people. Don't go away.